Welcome to Artisans Alley. You may notice today that we're not at VCAC, we're here in Coldstream at Bob Kingsmill's studio in Coldstream. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm sorry about the freezing of your bottom. That's too bad. It's just midwinter, it's 20 below outside, and we're in under a very strong light and hopefully just having some fun at this whole
It's
thing.
nice and warm in the studio though.
It's great, yeah.
While you are primarily known for your crazy masks, murals, and sculptures, you also do functional pottery in your studio here.
That's right, Patricia. I do a lot of functional stuff, but every once in a while I go off on a tangent. It often originates from sitting in the evening doing some sketching, and ideas, bizarre or otherwise, come, and then I try to execute them within a short while.
So today we're going to start making a plate, is that right?
Yeah, just for fun. I thought we could make a platter. I make these large platters that people serve food on, or they hang them on the wall. This one has an old Scottish saying. It says, "Save your breath to cool your porridge." In other words, just telling you to shut up. I sometimes get in a bit of trouble with the sayings I put on them.
So why is your clay marbled?
Because I've mixed a blend of this is a sculpture mix which turns a nice toasty color. These are different white clays that I'm recycling. I went to Dodd's auction one night and lost control. I bought 2 bakery dough bins.
Did you?
You know, see those guys?
Yeah.
Well, they're 4 feet long, 2 feet deep, 30 inches wide. And I put all my scrap clay from sculpture mix in one and all my functional wear clay into the other.
Wow.
And so in that way I don't lose much clay.
So what cone is this?
Well, this will go to cone 9, so it's about 2,300 Fahrenheit or about 1250 Celsius.
Ah.
Yeah. You ever get lost for words? And so
What a fun variegation.
yeah, and you'll see it. Maybe not in this piece too much.
In
Well, you
here?
start seeing it through here, yeah. And in this case, the fire oxidized this side and then reduced this side a little bit, but not as much
So this
as
is
I'd
a
like.
wood fire,
This is gas fire.
gas fired.
This glaze here is 50% local clay and 50% ash from a friend's fireplace.
Beautiful.
Yeah, they're fun. And so some time ago I learned that whatever mark you put in clay, you can then stretch the clay. We're just going to make this sucker, okay?
All right.
Can we
Let's do
keep
it.
talking? So things like marks put in like that will stay with the clay, and you'll see what happens.
Okay.
And this becomes like the first step in producing one of these platters.
Okay.
Part of the whole, you see the way the lines start to open up?
I like how these marks come out.
Isn't that neat? And
Yeah.
this is just stretching the clay. I do want it to be fairly round. I have to play around a little bit to make sure it's not too heavy. It's always nice when people buy a piece that they can lift it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's a plus.
God.
Or if you have to ship it.
Yeah. I'm lucky in that with the studio on Granville Island, stuff can go all over the place. This is a beautiful tool I inadvertently pinched from my son-in-law, who was a drywall person. And what they do is they punch this into the wall, then they can make circles to put chimney flues through. And so I just use it,
To scribe the circle.
yeah, to give me a circle.
Oh.
And
Isn't that great, hey?
It's really easy, yeah. And now I can put the phrase I'd like. It's a bit squarish, isn't it? So we can,
Ish.
yeah, we can just cut her and slip that off. I don't know why I've ended up making clay things, and now it's 50 years
Really?
I've been working with clay, and I am grateful.
Maybe you're going to stick with it.
I think I'll probably have Marianne put some clay into the coffin, just so I don't. Well, that's happened for thousands of years. People putting stuff in their coffin
You bet.
or their sarcophagus that will make them happy. So mine would be a bit of clay and a lot of beer. Thank you very much. So, as I was saying, phrases come from everywhere, and be good.
You
men
tell me
and-
the letters you want, and I'll work on getting them out for you.
Vision, V-I-S-I-O-N, not V-I-S-H-N.
Not
Okay.
Vishu.
We have a lot of good people in this valley who
beautiful.
are in the arts, and they go across a wide spectrum of disciplines. So we're lucky to have a rich clay community,
We are very lucky.
and lucky to have a lot of people working in the visual arts and in the music world.
Well, and you're almost a provincial national treasure with all the contributions that you've made to the arts here.
Well, I don't know.
Didn't you write a publication about potters in BC? And you've been the
Oh,
subject
that
of a
was
couple of.
funny, wasn't it? Vision without. I was celebrating about 10 or so years as a potter, and I didn't know how to celebrate it. So what I decided to do with my first wife, who was a real sweetheart, was to write a book on BC potters. Now, what I did was I made up a format for the book, and I said, what I'd like is a photograph of you, a photograph of your work, and some of your own personal history. And I sent it out to all the potters I knew in the province, and I didn't expect to get any answers back.
Really?
But everyone replied. So I had to put the book out. And the interesting thing is that it has turned into a record of that particular time, which tells you the importance of putting out the books and celebrating men and women in the arts.
It really is a snapshot of what's going on
It's
at
a
that point in
snapshot
time.
at that very moment, and because these moments are quite ephemeral, they're often missed. So that was a small contribution, and I'm so glad to have done it.
I like how you went off the circle there.
Well, that sort of fit, and I was running out of space. This is a volcanic rock. Everything becomes a textural device, right?
Yeah.
This was from the Armstrong Cooperative Growers Association, right?
Yeah.
I found it in a junkyard once, and I should give it to the museum. I'll give myself and this to the museum.
Oh, nice. It's kind of like graffiti for clay.
Yeah, that's right. And then you can start reading into it if you want. So everything becomes a textural possibility. This is a culturally altered spoon. If I take it
And alter it.
and I take it to a grindstone and just grind it. And if you do a repeat, I actually made this spoon because I was making, someone asked me to make a dragon, right? So I made a little dragon, and then I needed a really cheap and sluttish way to make the scales. So this is how I made the scales.
It's beautiful. It's perfect.
And then you tell people,
What's the
do you know how long it takes to carve all these scales? You know, this takes hours and hours and hours. And
it could be starlings, or it could be fishtails, or it could
oh
be
yeah,
angelfish.
yeah, or it could be prairie wheat if
That's
you
right.
repeat the pattern this way.
Oh, right. There goes my silverware drawer.
Yeah, just one though. Or you could borrow it from one of those exclusive restaurants where you dine every second evening. It doesn't have to be silver plate or silver.
So the mark making that you're doing, I really enjoy your sense of design. Did you study this in school, or is this just something that flows with you?
Do you know what? I haven't gone to school yet. I took some courses at the University of Manitoba, but I'm largely self-taught. And so it's
I noticed in your
just something
studio
that builds
store,
up.
there's quite a eclectic blend of design that I really love the little lentil pieces that you put above the doors and the windows, but it's all part of design that you just seem to get.
Well, I think design is all around us, and those little lintel pieces are an answer to a problem. So I went through the 60s and 70s, and it was a time when people just did things. If you had a problem, you did it. And so I'm still carrying that. And this is sort of an accumulation of stuff, and it comes to a certain point where it's balanced for me, and I can just step back and say, shut up, don't do any more.
And how do you know that? Like, for every artist, that seems to be such a tricky point of when to stop.
Well, it is a tricky point, because if you go too far, it just gets cluttered. And I like all the different elements, but I like them to be balanced. And
but not symmetrical, which is
no, not
cool.
symmetrical at all. And so I have got to a point with some of them over the years where I didn't like it. So in one case, I just went under, I lifted the thing and threw it up in the air, and it landed upside down, and then I could start from there. So this is pretty well it. And what I'll do is ask you just to move that under here while I lift it. And so these are walks, eh? And
I love the edge that gives you.
yeah, this is all my tools are expensive and nothing but high quality. And a man is made by his tools.
So what was this
That's a
original?
very strange phrase.
Was it a clay tool, or is it a massage thing?
I think it's probably for pasta or for
Oh.
baking, I would imagine.
But doesn't it do a nice job on the edge here?
Yeah, it cleans it up.
Yeah.
So you
Wow. Okay, so
Time-
what do you need to do? How long does this need to dry before it's
what I'll do is I'll
put
put
an
it.
X on it?
Do we want to put a foot on it? Is that too thick? Is that too thin? Will that break off?
Right, all
Do
the
I
design
wanna-
considerations here.
Do I
This
want
is
to push it
questionable
down?
right there, though.
That's called a burp. I'm just kidding. That can be
You
cut
made
off.
that up.
Unless
Lovely.
every once in a while someone comes by the studio and sees what's going on and understands that you just have a human being fooling around and sneaking through life and having pulled it off with some pleasure.
That it's not a machine going,
Yeah, stamping it out. Where
No,
you
it's
can
fabulous.
You can stamp out 100 plates a minute. So
I
we'll
like
just
it.
put this to one side.
all right, I'll be your Vanna.
And I have to remember that I need the X.
Okay, I'll remind you. We finished the plate. It looks fabulous.
Yep.
What are we doing next?
We're going to make a little mask.
Oh, great.
I make a lot of masks, and I don't know why I make them, except that I've made them right from the very beginning. And so in this case, I just cut it a bit because I might like
I
to
did
make
see
I might
that.
like to make use of that.
Mm-hmm.
We could make a little mask,
Okay.
or we could make a biggish mask.
Okay. So this knocks some of the air bubbles out and flattens it both? Is that
Well,
what-
this is scrap clay. What I'm actually looking at and quite loving is this line here
yes.
and this line here, because that'll be maybe the edge to the face, and then
Quite
I'll-
organic rather than a planned
yeah,
shape.
it's kind of. And look at the way the clay is opening up. That's because there's a bunch of air pockets in it. Now, if I really wanted it to be pure, I would have
Wedged the heck out of it.
wedged it and wedged it. But I love. It turns out I really like texture.
I've noticed.
It's a personal problem. I just love texture. It's the stuff that's ripped and torn and shredded and
Well, it's such a
seems
part
to-
of your work, right?
seems to be natural.
I'm really loving the variegation in the clay too, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll get some of that marbling as we move along.
What's that, like 4 pounds? 5 pounds of clay?
Yeah, about that. It's a bit heavy. So what I'll do is I build the piece over this.
Okay.
I'm kind of deciding which will be the top. I have, I like that. That might be a top. This might be a chin. Whoops. That might be too much.
Well, some poor guy's gonna have a horn on his head now.
We can do that too. I love horns. So this has quite, it's got that bit of an edge. It's got this rolling. It's come down a bit too far that way. This might be the chin. I usually start at the top and so that'll be the form. Although I'll probably cut some off here. It's interesting what starts to happen when students do masks. They sort of follow my steps, the steps I take. But then after a short while, sometimes, after an hour or so, stuff starts happening that's their own,
Nice.
and it's really beautiful. This is going to be the forehead, right?
Of course.
He's going to be a really heavy furrowed brow, serious
Cro-Magnon.
dude. Well, there's still a lot of those guys around too.
So you do the cutout.
So that's the cutout,
Okay.
and the forehead will sit over that. It doesn't have to be that that obvious, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And again,
So you don't even need slip. You can just.
well, the
whack it
clay's
in
of
place.
the clay is of one consistency, and
Okay.
I've just sort of wedged it, and
Great.
we've got to start. This is maybe a bit too thick, but what I'll do, I'll make the piece today, and then tomorrow morning, I'll flip it over onto a piece of foam, and then I can scour the back out of it if I
Thin it
feel
out a
it's
bit.
too thick or too heavy. Yeah, to thin it out.
And you like teals and washes and stuff for your, rather than glazes for your mask, don't you?
I don't. I do glaze the occasional one, eh? I'll do green men because people like green men, so
Sure
I'll
they do.
glaze the sucker green. But most of them are.
And that's of Celtic origin, right? The green men, is it?
Oh, I think it's all over Europe. Friends brought me back a book on the green man in cathedrals in Europe.
Oh, really?
So we're going from the forehead down to just above the eye.
Okay.
And again, I'm not using a lot of slip. This is where a horn will go if we want a horn.
Okay.
You're now participating. You can make executive decisions
Okay.
regarding
Who he
horns.
becomes. Or
Yeah.
she. Could be a she.
It's, yes.
Uh-oh.
This is called the whacker.
Okay.
I feel it's coming out too much, so I'm
Okay.
just going to take it down a bit. Again, a very expensive tool,
Clearly.
handcrafted in Boston. Okay, what I'll do next is a nose. And I'll cut a triangle out. And what that does is allow me to go over the next day. When I flip it over, I'll know where that hole is, and I can then scour away some more clay.
Okay. Is that so that it dries more evenly or that it fires more evenly?
Well, it's for a bit of weight for drying, and any thick areas will tend to, are more susceptible to blowing up. So I have a mask over here that I did in the last firing, in the last bisque firing, but because I rushed the firing a bit at the end to bring the heat down, I blew it half apart, right?
Don't you hate that? I do.
Well,
Ooh.
that's not big enough, is it?
No.
Oh,
But you
yeah.
could just stick your thumb in it more.
Yeah, press it out a bit more. So if I have thick areas, or if I'm rushing the bisque firing, then I'm often liable to get a bit of a blowout explosion. So just left and right.
So it's not just air bubbles that does that.
It's weight, thickness.
Okay.
The air bubbles I don't really have to worry about. So I'll bring the eyebrow around to the nose, and
Nice.
we can just put that to the camera to let them see that. It's still quite rough, but we will refine him.
Okay.
He'll look just like. Oh, I don't. So there's nibbles left and right. We're going to put the nibbles on.
But not an Uncle Bernie.
No, well, we might. So to the left and right are nibbles, right?
Okay. That's the technical term?
That's the nurse's term.
Nibbles.
That's a medical term. He's lost his nibbles. Sometimes misinterpreted in courtrooms, but
Nibblectomy? You
yeah,
had to remove both of them?
yeah.
Okay.
So that's the upper lip. Do you want any teeth? Or I sometimes give them teeth and fangs, but we don't have to do that today because it's Tuesday.
Never on a day that ends in Y.
Yeah. So this will be the lower lip.
Okay, that's a happy looking lower lip.
It's pretty good. Most of the masks are quite neutral, which is interesting. They're neither happy nor sad. I've been so lucky, being on Granville Island. My masks have gone all over the world. Oh, look at his lips. They're just
luscious.
coming.
They're kissable.
They're just full of hope. I want to do a series of masks that I'll burnish. I won't burnish him. So I hope to do some larger ones and pit fire them.
Oh, nice.
So we've got to the point now where I'm going to do his eyeballs. Okay, these are the eyes.
Okay.
This is close to being finished. What excellent timing, eh?
Good job.
Except his forehead doesn't look right. So in this case, we're giving him 2 eyeballs, okay?
They're generous.
One on each side of the nose. It does sound excessive, but we'll give one on each side of the nose. And again, I'll cut a hole as to, their very background. Those will go in there. And then I want this beautiful, another really
High-tech.
expensive tool. And I'm just rolling it.
Okay.
Rolling it, rolling it, rolling it, rolling it. And this will be the top of the eyelid.
So while you're finishing his eyes,
Yeah,
you have a studio in Coldstream that has a
I have a
showroom
beautiful
with a-
studio
with a-
in Coldstream.
Yes, you do. And you also have a studio showcasing your work for sale here. Correct?
Yep.
That's
So
open.
all the time, except when I'm not here. and then it's still open.
And then the one at Granville Island is called?
It's called Kingsmill Studio Pottery. I'll just do the eyeballs and then we can say it's done. That's good, she said.
Oh my word.
We've got this guy, and then this guy.
Oh my gosh.
This could be a corer, you know, for coring out your fruits.
Indeed.
Fruits of the loom.
It certainly cements the gaze, doesn't it? Like it gives
Yeah.
them a focus of this is what I'm looking at rather
Yeah.
than ambiguous.
And I can tidy this up a bit later, you know. Again, the clay's a bit wet, but workable.
So much character.
And then, do you want to let's give him cheeks. Okay. Oh.
Do you want me to move this? Oh,
That's
oh my
one cheek.
gosh.
And then we'll go under and just tickle him up a bit there. Ooh, he almost went through. I'll tidy it up again later, you know, I'll let it stiffen for a bit. And
So these can go outdoors as well, right? The way that you fire them?
this will be high-fired stoneware, and they can go outdoors and they last forever.
Isn't that wonderful? Because you have quite an amazing garden here too in the summer, don't you? With
Well,
sculptures.
Marianne
and...
is a really, really, really good gardener. I shouldn't talk behind her back, but she's a good gardener, and we have some sculptural pieces. I put a number of these on semi-curved partial faces, and we have some of those out in the garden. But you'll just have to come and visit. We're in the lonely, lonely depths of Coldstream, where everyone is so decent.
Oh, I think he's going to be fabulous. I can't wait to see him when he's done. Thank you, Bob. Thank you
Okay,
so much
thank
for
you for
playing
coming by.
today.
Yeah, well, thank
It
you
wouldn't
for
have been the
coming
same
by.
to take you out of the studio. Thanks again so
Yeah.
much for being
Well,
here
thank you
and
both for coming out here.
welcoming us to your studio. We're really grateful. And thanks for watching Artisans Alley.